The faith that you have is in God. The trust that you have is in the process. So if you have faith in God and you're connecting to that, then you can trust another individual, because really what you're trusting is yourself. You're really trusting your intuition, the communion that you've had with God. So that's what's bringing your ability to trust and have faith in something. When we're talking about relationships, it's very easy for us to take things personal. That when someone does something that we don't like, we take it personal. But when it's never just about these two individuals solely. It is about, if there's something going wrong in a relationship, it is that there are negative habits and patterns that are being perpetuated in the relationship, and those two people, their negative patterns and habits and mindsets are harmonizing with each other more than the positive aspects. That's what it is. That's why I think this idea of marriage, and especially how much it's downplayed now in society. But I think it's downplayed when you detach it, when you compartmentalize it and just say, okay, it's women. Of course, some of us might know the history. Of course, women weren't allowed to work, in this patriarch society that we live in. So of course, a lot of it was illegal to help to make sure that women would be provided for. But of course, I say it all the time that we will take the principles of God and we'll corrupt it, but that's not God. That's us and our misunderstanding and, and misinterpretation of what God intended. I think a lot of people take the misinterpretations and they run with it instead of really peeling back the layers and seeing what God is saying about this and what the essence of this was supposed to be. When it's explained in the sense that, everything comes through marriage. Even you getting here, your parents, I don't care if they might not have been married, but they were married to the idea that they were going to have a good time. They married the idea, right, that they were going to spend a certain time, with each other, and whether you were intentionally made or you weren't intentionally made, they still were, there was some kind of perception, some kind of mentality, some kind of mindset where they said, okay, I'm gonna be with this person, I'm gonna have a good time. We've committed, right? We've put our faith in that, okay, if I spend time with this person in this way, most likely this is going to happen. On so many levels, it's important. And I think when you think of marriage that way, it becomes so much more than just, okay, a man and a woman coming together and being married. When you understand that everything in creation is created that way. And now if you're a single person and you are thinking just all across the board about whether your purpose in life, whether who you're going to end up with, if you just take the 3 things that I broke down and you put it on a paper and you put, okay, the merger of my faith, where is my faith? My husband said something many lives ago. I don't know, I think it was the last year. He said it. I never forget it, because he said, misplaced faith is failure. Which is true. It reminds me of what Kimberly presented to us in a conversation yesterday about a woman waiting 10, 20 plus years for someone who's saying they're promising to marry her but doesn't. That's misplaced faith. That's her underhanding her own intuition, or maybe not tuning into God to rely on putting the faith in the individual. So that's why I always tell people there's fundamental principle. You're not having faith in that person. The faith that you have is in God. The trust that you have is in the process. So if you have faith in God and you're connecting to that, then you can trust another individual, because really what you're trusting is yourself. You're really trusting your intuition, the communion that you've had with God. So that's what's bringing your ability to trust and have faith in something. If you take that, put where am I placing my faith? If you're in a relationship right now, where am I placing my faith? Where's my faith? Is my faith more so in me watching and calculating the actions of the person that I'm with, what they said, or am I constantly, not like I don't want it to be like a task, but just naturally. It should be a natural thing for you to have prayer, communion with God. It doesn't have to be like you're on your knees and things like that. To me, this is prayer to God. When I come and talk on here, because if God tells me to do it and I do it, that's prayer. That's prayer. I'm acting on what God told me to do. I'm still, while I'm talking to you guys, still listening, because I don't want to tell you something that is going to be harmful to you, that maybe some of you listen to and you want to apply. I'm always trying to tune in. I'm never trying to, disconnect. So yeah, where's my faith in regards to this relationship? And then sacrifice. Yeah, what are you going to be willing to give up? For me, I had to make some sacrifices and give up certain things. But I always tell people, because I think when we think of sacrifice, people kind of automatically think of like compromise. I got to give up this so that this person. No, I always say this: the most sacrificial thing that you want to give up in a relationship is really vulnerability. We like to, stay within ourselves, and it's not always easy to be exposed. In the book, I write that marriage is so sacred, and I proceeded with prudence to not rush into getting married to Ben, because I was understanding. I was starting to learn the sacredness of it and the weight of the decision. I had to understand the weight of the decision to surrender to the gravity of it, because there's a gravity to marriage. It's complete surrender. It does make a difference, because sometimes when I speak to people, they're like, oh no, it doesn't make a difference, it's just the legal part. And that. No, it's not that. It's more than that. It's more than that, because if you have two people who have said that, okay, we're gonna completely align and commit to each other emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally, and legally, that's a complete surrender. And that's what our relationships require of us, complete surrender. And that's so powerful, because when you have two people who have identified that the purpose of them coming together is to completely surrender to whatever purpose that God has established for their relationship to fulfill, that's powerful. And that's why that area is being downplayed. That's why that area is being attacked so much, because it's really powerful. Because when those people surrender to the process and go through the process of relatability, partnership, and into oneness, they come to the understanding that they are one. They are one, but because they're here on earth and in time, they have to use teamwork to fulfill the purpose, right? If we're in a company, in a job, you can't have two people, maybe you can have two people doing the same things, but they won't necessarily do it the same way, because we're unique individuals. And if you want to build a really good company, you want to make sure, if you're a boss, right, anybody in a company knows that you want to assess that, okay, I don't have that many people doing the same things, because I want to make progress. I want to make sure that we are producing and being productive. And that's me placing the best people that are playing their role and playing their part to the best of their ability. So that's the struggle. That's the struggle, getting us to the point where we are understanding that we're one, but that takes complete surrender. And then the idea that, okay, we are one in body, one in purpose, one in body, meaning like in a spiritual sense. Clearly, we're not physically one in body. But even when I go back to saying everything comes through this world through marriage, and I say God, His Word, His Spirit, that's all God. That's all one, right? The only reason why it's broken up for us to understand is because we're experiencing God in time, at different times, in different ways, right? But it's all God. So I think when you understand that and you have a marriage and two people really understand that, like I say that to people all the time, like Ben and I are one. We're one. He can be in Spain. I don't care where he is. I'm so connected to him. We are one. We might express things different. Clearly, we're not going to be mimicking in that way where we sound exactly the same. But if you speak to me, you speak to him, you can see that we speak similar, our language is similar, our beliefs is similar, because we've come to that place of surrender with each other, and we've come to the place of whole and remaining in the position that God has put us in for our relationship. Things like that. Those are things that are occurring in a relationship that will cause stumbling blocks or unnecessary conflicts in relationships, because we are putting so much heavy weight on one singular person, right? Because it's easier to do that. But once you kind of understand the concept of a marriage covenant or the concept of marriage, you always know that no matter how much you're throwing stones at someone else, if we're one, if we're interconnected, then well, that it's stones don't bounce, but in this case, it's going to bounce and come right back at you, because it's going to be reflective of whatever mindset that you're in. I always say that our relationships, or I say like God will bring a word, whether it's through the scripture or through someone else, and the way you receive it will show you where your position is. It'll show you your maturity or maybe your immaturity and understanding, and that's fine. It's fine. Like, I don't, even when I'm doing these, like we said about ride or die pride, like everyone has something to offer. We all have things to offer each other here. There should never be a moment where someone's feeling like, oh, I'm up here and I understand this. I'm not doing these videos for that. I'm doing this video because of just gratefulness, and I'm learning along the way, and I will continue to learn because that's what I'm here for. I want to pass on what I know and I have seen and experienced works in relationships. So I think once we kind of get to the idea like, okay, well, we're all married to something. What am I married to right now? And is it getting in my way, or is it helping me? Is it helping my marriage? Is it helping my relationship, or is it not? If it's not, I want to identify it and be intentional about knowing when those patterns, negative habits, or perspectives is approaching me. And the reason why it approaches you is if it can get you out of your position. If it can make you think less of who you are, or not know who you are, or not have faith in what God has established, then it's done its job. That's really the main goal, you know. So marriage is really important, and it's not just an institution that's made by man. It definitely is established by God, and I think it's a very courageous act, and it takes a lot of surrender, and it takes a complete vulnerability. And it does say something about two people who are willing to say, I'm going to connect with you in all the ways here on this plane, because I know that there is mystery in it. I always say that I feel like if I'm God, I'm going to put my mysteries in an area, an aspect of life that no one could escape. And that definitely is our relationships, because there's no one who comes into this earth that doesn't deal with relationships in some kind of form, whether it's intimate marriage relationships or family relationships or professional relationships. We all deal with relationships. Yeah, so assess what you're married to. We're all married to something. And when we do that, I think that will definitely help us to harmonize with each other in our relationships more.